This evening, it is my great honor and privilege to introduce our speaker, Dr. Izzeldin Abuelaish, a Palestinian medical doctor who was born and raised in Jabalia refugee camp in the Gaza Strip. Dr. Abuelaish is a passionate and eloquent proponent of peace between Palestinians and Israelis. He has dedicated his life to using health as a vehicle for peace in the conflict, and has succeeded despite all odds through great determination of spirit, a strong faith, and a stalwart belief in hope and family. Dr. Abuelaish received his elementary, preparatory, and secondary education in refugee camp schools, followed by a scholarship to study medicine in Cairo and a diploma in obstetrics and gynecology from the Institute of Obstetrics and Gynecology at the University of London in the UK. From 1997 to 2002, Dr. Abuelaish completed a residency in obstetrics and gynecology at Soroka University Hospital in Beersheba, Israel. He also received a master's in public health from Harvard. Dr. Abuelaish has overcome many personal hardships, including poverty and violence, to become one of the most outspoken, prominent, and beloved researchers, educators, and public speakers on peace and development in the Middle East. Despite his personal losses, his doctrine is that hate is not a response to war. Rather, open communication, understanding, hope, and compassion are the tools to bridge the divide between Israeli and Palestinian interests. Dr. Abuelaish presently holds the appointment of Associate Professor of Medicine at the Dalla Lana School of Public Health at the University of Toronto. He is the author of the best-selling book, I Shall Not Hate, and he is the founder of the Daughters for Life Foundation. He is as well a nominee for the Nobel Peace Prize. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Izzeldin Abuelaish.
Thank you. I will start to thank all of you, because the one who is not thankful to people is not thankful to God. And another thing today, which proves to me, as I usually believe, that nothing is impossible in life. And in our sayings in Arabic, it says, a mountain can't meet a mountain, but a person can meet a person. And today I met, which I consider it's a blessing from God, to meet my friend Jack Mandel, where my contract with U of T was signed by him when I got the offer from the University of Toronto. So this is a great blessing for me, a surprise to meet Jack. I think for 2 or 3 years we didn't. And that gives us hope, and that nothing is impossible in life. So thank you all for giving me this opportunity to reconnect with Jack and to see him, because we started that connection at the U of T, where I felt, believe me, when he left, as a friend, as a brother, someone from the beginning we started this relationship. When I came first, I remember it, 20-something in March, and we met at the University of Toronto. Before I moved, July 22nd, to Canada. I want to share with you, and even we want to talk with open mind, with open heart and eyes. We want to learn, to listen to each other. And that's personally my life story, because life is full of surprises, of challenges, and we need to learn how can we challenge life challenges. But most important, How can we challenge ourselves? Because at the same time, we face conflicts, individual conflicts inside each of us. So we need to challenge ourselves. And my life itself was a challenge. All of my life. I think of my life as a war. That I was fighting all of the time. Fighting to survive. Just to move forward. The next day. In a time we see people in this world, and the question we want to ask, where we were born to fight or to live and to give life. How can we do it? Technology.
It's a challenge right there.
But the most difficult time in my life was just in 4 months period. And we have certain numbers in our memory we don't forget. Number 16 will never be erased from my mind. Even sometimes it's for the bad, but at the same time, there is something good of it. 16th of September 2008 is the day when I lost my wife. I thought it's the end of the world because I fully believe, till now, and I will continue to believe, children should be raised with the mother. The mother is everything in life. The mother is the big incubator. And my faith taught me the orphan is not the one who loses the father. The orphan is the one who loses the mother. With the loss of the mother, we lose the big heart. The incubator, the mother, is the one who sacrifices and gives without limits. And even as a child, if someone to ask me as a child, with whom would you like to live? I will say, I would be to be with my mother. But I can't change it. How can I challenge it and to move forward? As I used to be the first Palestinian doctor to practice medicine in an Israeli hospital. I started it in 91 as a volunteer. Because I believe medicine, it has one face, it has one culture, it has one value. It's a human face, human value and culture. Medicine, it's the human stabilizer and equalizer. It equalizes between people. When we treat all, we treat them equally within the borders of the hospital. We don't design a treatment according to name, ethnicity, background, religion. It's according to the disease. To treat all of them with respect, with the privacy, wishing them the best. As a gynecologist, that I practiced and I believed in it. When I practiced it in 91, I believed in it. The happiest moment in my life when I handled the baby to his mother. Because I fully believe this cry of a newborn baby is a cry of hope, cry of life. A new life is coming. But all of the time, I was asking myself, what the future is waiting for this newborn baby? Whether a Muslim, a Jewish, a Christian, Druze, Bedouins, whatever they are children. I did it, and thanks to my daughter Bisan, after the loss of her mother, she said, you have to count on God and our support. You have to continue your work. I continued it And Bisan was my eldest daughter. For me, she was everything. She is the eldest. Where I saw myself in her to be my friend, my manager, my advisor. If I need anything, I ask her. She was the first Palestinian girl at the age of 14. At that time, I was in Italy doing my subspecialty in fetal medicine and genetics. Friends of mine, they contacted me telling me there is a peace camp for girls. I said, I found it. It's for girls who can make it. It's not fun for them to be boys or girls. It's girls. I said, I have to send her. I sent Bisan to that camp at the age of 14. And after a few days, she called me that she is not happy because she speaks English and it's the first time in her life to be out of Gaza Strip. I said to her, don't worry, you have to be confident. From tomorrow, don't speak English. Start to speak in Arabic and let them struggle with you. Believe me, after a few days she is calling. Her friends, they don't leave her room to stay with her. She spent about 3 weeks and came back to say to me, I learned one thing. I found how similar are we as Jewish, as Muslims, as Christians, as Bedouins, as Druze, who were participating in that camp. Said our children, they found out how similar are we. But we didn't find. What did they find? And that's what is needed. Even today, the similarities between people, how can we find it? After she lost her mother, she was in her final year, studying at the university, and a few months later, to get her BA. She came to say to me, now I learned something. Because most of the students, the nightmare they have when they have academic exams. She said, now I realized one thing, that academic exams are the easiest in life. The most difficult exams are life exams. When we are tested by the loss of the beloved ones, the daughter or the son with the loss of the mother or the father, I continued my work, but my heart all of the time was with my children, because I used to practice and to go Sunday morning and to come back Thursday. That's why people, they ask me, why did you go to Canada? Because after that I said, I can't leave my children. They need an eye on them. The big heart is not there anymore to support me and to support my children. So I said, I have to find a place where I can be with my children. I used to travel, and that's one of the messages from my little experience. Don't say tomorrow for anything in life. Because this world where we are living now, you don't know what will happen tomorrow. If I knew what is going to happen with me, I will never leave my house or travel. So I can say to you, spend as much as you can of your time with the people you love. Kiss them, hug them, eat with them, enjoy your time with them. Believe me, it's a crazy world. We don't know. These moments will come back or not. That's life taught me. That's why I said I have to be now with my children every minute. Even now, when I am there in Toronto, I ask them to be around me, to see me, to surround me. But life is full of surprises. 16th of September of January 2009 is the day when the Israeli tank to bomb my daughter's room, killing 3 daughters and 1 niece. They were girls. And personally, I believe there was no reason to be killed. And they did nothing. They were girls, armed with love, with education, with the plans. They were fighters for humanity. They were girls. But it's important to have faith. I am a person with faith. I said to myself, after I saw what happened, seconds after I left my daughter's room, it was a few seconds. I left the room to be in the salon, the first bomb came. I don't want anyone to see what did I see. Because at the beginning, I didn't believe it. Because the craziness was from everywhere, bombing, shooting. We don't sleep just on the symphony of firing and shooting. But when I realized that this is my house, I said, where is Bisan? Where is Mayar? Where is Aya? Where is Noor? I want to see them. They became parts. Drowning in their blood. Mayar, the beautiful, bright girl who was #1 in math in Palestine. She was 15 years old, who planned to follow my path. I was happy when I asked them, who's going to be a doctor, to go to medicine? Mayar, she said, I will go for that. I was happy. At least one of them was decapitated. But it's important to have faith. I said, why I was saved? Why? If I stayed few seconds, I would be gone with them and to be added to numbers. And that's what do we see in this world. Not in Palestine or Israel, in this world. We speak about a human being as figures, as numbers, as statistics. A group of people were killed. That's all. 100, 200, 500, 1,000. Whether with bullets or even from natural disasters, from diseases. Human beings are not numbers. They have names. They have faces. They have parents. They have plans. They have a future. It's shame. It makes me angry when we speak about a human being as numbers or statistics. All faiths recommend saving one's life, you save the world. Killing one, you kill the world. It's time to go beyond and to think of any human being as this world and to feel angry when we hear someone is killed or lost his or her life. Just a few months ago, when with the attack at the school in the States, when they said 28 were killed, I said, what are they talking about? Personally, I felt angry because first I saw in these girls my daughters. They were girls, mostly girls and teachers. And it's time to give the right title to what is happening. Not to generalize, to say 28. 28 were killed. So I said this tragedy is for good. At the same time, it was God's blessing and the plan. I am supposed to be interviewed live by the Israeli TV. 4:45. So instead of that, I called the Israeli journalist, who is my friend, and I didn't expect that he is going to be in the studio there or to pick the phone. I left him a voice message. After few minutes, he's coming back. And that's the courage. That's what is needed from each of us. The courage, all the courage, when we say the word in time and to act in time. What is the value of acting or thinking, of treating the patient after the patient is dead? We need to act in time and to say the word in time. He opened the speaker. I don't know that he opened it and it was live, broadcasted live. And this is a risk. He opened it and he said to me later, after I opened it, I said to myself, this is the last day of my work here. I will be fired. But a few minutes later, the Director General is sending him a note asking him to keep the speaker open. It opened the eyes of the people about what is happening, to give the human face to what is happening in that time in Gaza Strip. But it's important also to learn. No one should be killed in order to learn. We need, as we practice in medicine, to prevent, not to treat. We don't want to treat cases. We need to prevent any more cases, any more deaths. What satisfied me, the second day was announced unilateral ceasefire. And that's what I said to my daughter Shada, who was severely wounded. She was at the hospital where I am working, at Sheba Medical Center in Tel HaShomer. When I said to Shada, the blood and holy souls of your sisters is not waste. It saved others' lives. And the first message of support came from my son. I am blessed to be a medical doctor, that I managed many emergency situations as a gynecologist. So I have to think at that time of my daughter Shada, who was severely wounded, my niece Ghaida, my brother. Even I started to think of the future scenario of my children's life. What will happen? Those who are living. To look at my son, Muhammad, who is 12, what the future is waiting for him. Is he going to be violent, to be crazy, or what do we think or say about people? He is violent, he hates, he is terrorist, without asking, what did we do to make this violent, to hate us, or to be violent or terrorist? Because hatred, violence, fear, and diseases are a result of exposure. It's made, it's manufactured. And if you want to ask 5 times why. What made this child at the school? What made him or her to be violent? Don't blame the child if he's violent. Take responsibility of asking, what can you do to help? And what made him or her to be violent? It's the easy way to escape responsibility of blaming others. To say, he is violent, he is terrorist, he hates me. Take responsibility, ask yourself, what did you do? The change starts. God will never change what is in people till they change what is in their hearts, minds, and souls. Start the change. So I looked at my son. He's 12. He said to me, why are you crying? Why are you screaming? You must be happy. Said my son, he doesn't know what is going on. He said, no, I know that my sisters are killed, but I know that they are happy there. They are with their mom. She asked for them. That's the 12 years old child, son, to say that. Said if he said that, I don't need to worry about him. I have to move forward. As Einstein said, life is like riding a bicycle. To keep balanced, we must keep moving. I kept moving. Faster, stronger, more determined, not to give up or to forget them. And since then, I swore to God and to my daughters, because I fully believe one day I will meet them, that I will never rest or relax till I meet them on that day, to tell them, your holy souls and noble blood wasn't waste. It made a difference in others' lives, and as I believe this tragedy is for good and must be invested for good, and to tell them that I am coming to meet you with the big gift. It's the justice for them and others in this world. But the means to be used that we all have, which means it's not the bullet or the bomb used to kill them. I have stronger than that. And we have the same. Bullets kill once, but words and wisdom and good deeds are stronger weapons than the bullet used. So we need to use the wisdom we have, the kind words and the good deeds, and from here to send my daughters, whom I personally, I believe they are alive. They are living with me. They are moving with me. To send them prayers and the blessings. When I wrote my book, I Shall Not Hate, because the people were expecting me to hate. I may have the right to hate. But the question, is it going to be the right mean to bring my daughters justice and to challenge the perpetrator? Because in life, we face challenges. And if we want to hate everyone who is doing bad thing to us, this world will be endemic with hatred. It will be an ocean of hatred. But instead of that, how can you challenge the perpetrator or the one who did bad things to you not to accept what did he or she do for you? How can you take responsibility and to say, I will never allow you to defeat me? In life, don't accept to be a victim more than once. If someone did harmful things, you are a victim of that act. But if you became injected with this hatred, you are another victim of hatred. Which hatred? Which is a poison. Which is a toxin. Destructive to whom? To the one who carries it. And the perpetrator, he is happy or she is happy to see you injected and destroyed with this hatred. Hatred is a chronic destructive disease. Hatred is the biggest weapon of mass destruction in our souls. It's a fire. Believe me, it's a fire which burns the one who carries it. And the one you plan to hate, he doesn't know anything. He is happy there. You are destroying yourself. Don't allow hatred to approach you. You may feel angry. We need to feel angry, outraged. Anger and outrage with the meaning of not accepting what is happening to energize you. What can you do to take responsibility to change the situation? Sometimes we feel angry about our children when they do something wrong because we care about them. And that's the anger. We all need to be angry. What can we do to make a difference about what is happening in this world? What makes the evil flourish in this world is good people to do nothing, just to watch it, thinking they are far from risk. But I can say to you, in this world, which is becoming smaller and smaller, that no one is far from risk. Maybe we are far by distance, but by the end, even this risk can approach us. Because disease, violence, hatred, and what do we call terrorism doesn't know barriers or borders. It crosses barriers. So we need to prevent. When we prevent outside, we prevent ourselves. We in this world, we are living and riding the same boat. And we must not allow anyone to do harm to it. And for those who think they are far from risk, to remind them of the saying of Martin Niemöller, the German Protestant theologist. At the times of the Nazis, he said they came first. They came first for the communists, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the trade unionist, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a Jew. Then they came for the Catholic. He wasn't a Catholic. He said, I didn't speak out because I wasn't a Catholic. Then they came for me. Sadly, by that time, no one was left to speak out to. How long can we wait? How many people should be killed? And to continue to turn a deaf ears and the blind eyes about what is happening in our world. It's our world. That's the question. What world do we want for us and our children? So it's time, instead of wasting your time, of blaming others, to change it into energy, to energize you, of taking responsibility. And each of us is responsible. Even the perpetrator and the victim, both of them are responsible. The patient and the doctor, there is a responsibility. The patient is responsible and the doctor. It's a mutual responsibility. So we need to take that part and to understand that this world can endure. It can endure, but with what? With the truth. We need to be honest with ourselves. It's the truth, because the truth is the light which helps us. The truth is the right diagnosis to set up the right treatment. Sometimes we want to hide our heads. We don't want to see the truth. But believe me, the truth is the shortest way to help us to move forward. So we need that. And justice. What is justice? We don't want to waste time at universities. What is justice? Justice, if it is acceptable for me, I accept it for you. What do I like for myself to like it for others? That's justice. And that's what do we want to teach our children. Once we have the truth and justice, believe me, peace is a consequence of truth and justice. Because justice is peace. And to start in this world to value the most precious thing in this world. What is the most precious thing in this world? It's a human being. And the freedom. Because we all were born free. We all. No one wasn't born free. But at the same time, to understand that no one is free as long as others are not. Freedom of what? Freedom from fear, of poverty, of sickness, of oppression, of suffering. That's what is needed, and to stand for the freedom of all. We fight sometimes against each other, thinking that the other, what do we call the other, is my enemy. But life taught me our enemies are our ignorance, our arrogance, and our greed. We take it for granted that we know each other, but we don't know. We realize it by the end of the day that we don't know. When we want to know, the one you know through reading the eyes. Even without talking, you connect and you respect, you show passion, you understand it. And that's come That comes with my daughter Shada after I wrote my book and gave it to her. She is 18 years. To read it. After a few days, she is writing me. She's my daughter, 18 years living with me. I thought that I know her and she knows me. To write me an email, and she lives with me. Now I knew my father. I took it for granted that my daughter, she knows me. So it's important for each of us to know each other and to try to know each other and to connect mind to mind and heart to heart. It will be the easy way for understanding. This way we smash barriers. Not to keep barriers. The first day of arriving to Toronto, when my daughter Rafa, she asked our neighbors, and she went to play with them. Our neighbor, he came a few hours later to say to me, Izzeldin, your children will go to the same school as my children. Why not to let them all of the time to come from the front door? We want their life to be easy, to take part of the wooden fence of the backyard. The first day in Toronto to smash physical barriers. So we need also to smash physical and mental barriers we created in our minds. Sometimes we are stereotyped or misinformed about each other. So we need to exert some efforts to know about each other and to know what do we call the other. That's what is needed from each of us, and to practice it. I lost my daughters, but the loss of my daughters, I learned from it that nothing is impossible in life. The only impossible thing in life I believe in is to return them back. But I can keep them alive with good deeds, to remember them, to talk about them. And that's why I am living for them and my living children. Because I feel I am accountable in this world just to them. I feel I am accountable. They are asking me, what did you do for us? So I say to them, rest in peace. I didn't forget you and will never forget you. And in my life, I am in debt to whom? To my mother, my wife, and my daughters. And all of the time, I am thinking of them. If they can come from the graves for a second to see that I didn't forget them and to be proud of what am I doing. And I fully believe in the role. It's not in the rights or status of women. It's the role of women. The main indicator of any country's development, it's not GDP, it's women's education. So it's time. That's why Daughters for Life Foundation was established, which is a Canadian registered charity for education of girls and women from the Middle East. Girls who are succeeding from hardship. I want to see the plans of my daughters fulfilled by other girls. Because for me, as a Palestinian, as a child, from where did I come with the suffering? As a child, I never tasted my childhood. But I dreamed. Because someone can prevent you from anything, but no one can prevent you from dreaming. So I encourage you, encourage your children, your students, your neighbors, to dream big. Dreams are close to reality. But it's not a word, it's with action, to believe in it and to act. And my daughters, they didn't dream, they planned. Because they have their father to help them. What about other girls who don't have the resources? That's why this foundation, to see the plans of Bisan, Mayar, Aya, and Noor, fulfilled by other girls, and to prove this tragedy is for good. Because a healthy, educated children, husband, family, community, and nation, it's time, let us try. Believe me, if we didn't succeed, we will never fail. Give me 5 women in the history who were behind the disaster. 5, you can't find. You can find 3 or 4. For those who want to think, you can find 3 or 4. So let us try to give the women the role in decision making, in shaping our life and our future, because in this world we were created from Adam and Eve. For what? To build and construct and to complement each other, not to compete. We are not threatening each other. We are complementing each other. In 2011, we were able to give 25 awards to newly graduate girls from Palestine, from Israel and Jordan. 2012, we were able to give 45 awards to Palestinian girls, Israeli girls, Jordanians and Lebanese. And we have now 3 girls who are running their graduate studies and undergraduate studies in Canada. And I am sure next year we will have. Just a few weeks ago, I was at the New College of Florida and met with the president. And they gave us, and we are working together for 10 to 15 scholarships. 10, 15 girls to come. We have the next gala dinner for Daughters for Life, 28th of May in Toronto, where we will be proud of it. Last year we have the first. I was worried about the Daughters for Life because sometimes in our life we feel things are dead by the end of the one who found this foundation. But the blessing from that gala dinner, when my daughters came and to speak and to say to me, don't worry, this foundation will be alive and will be kept alive. We are here. It was a message to me. I don't need to worry about it. And that's the blessings. To do that and to move with it. And that's what is needed. How can we challenge ourselves? And I want to end with a poem which was written by an Israeli Jewish woman in memory of Bisan. She joined Bisan in the peace camp for every one of us who is trying to find what are we losing and missing in this world. It's the love that we missed in this world. In memory of Bisan, where love resides, I long to touch you, Bisan, one more time, to hug you, to tell you how sorry I am that your mom died. But now you too are gone. Your smiling face, your gentle way, your softness, your non-judgmental words, your pain for your people, your way of life, your dreams, aspirations, and your hope for peace. Just days before the war, I spoke with your dad. He gave me your phone number. It's still in my car. Every day I glance at the number, seeing your name, Bisan. I wish I had spoken with you more, but I didn't have the guts. I spoke with you 3 days before you died. I told you that I am praying for your safety. My prayers were not heard. Through the shelling, the bombing, the Qassams, the smoke, I feel I have been betrayed by God, by my country, by the cruelty of humanity, by the warmongers, by those who think violence is the solution. And with all of this, I have been given a gift to have spent 6 weeks with Shada, Izzeldin, and Ghaida, I heard no words of revenge, nor hatred. I heard no anger. I heard the deep belief that peace is possible, even with this enormous loss. I have been strengthened from their strength. I am more determined from their determination. I am more at peace from their peacefulness. Bisan, forgive me for not being able to save you from my own people. Forgive me for giving you hope that peace is possible, and then taking that dream from you. You will always be my symbol of hope, peace, and mostly gentleness. Your dad shared the dream with me days after you died. He came into a room full of men, and there you were sitting amongst them. He asked you, "Why are you sitting here, Bisan? You know it is not acceptable in our society." You answered, "All is fine now, Dad. I am happy and well. I can be here now among the men where I am needed. May no other woman need to die in order to be able to influence the men as you have, Bisan. May we women be heard and heeded. And may the men in this world get the chance to know from deep within their hearts that this is where the answer lies, in their hearts, where love resides." Brothers and sisters, I came here because of this message, to share it with you, which is a human message. It's everyone's message. So it's time for each of us to do his part, to spread that message. I came here because I believe in you. So what is important is to have faith, to have hope, but most important is to act. Because faith and hope without action means nothing. The patient, when the patient comes to the doctor, is not just to get words, but to get a prescription to be cured and healed. So it's time for action to make a difference. And in our life, we have a priority. What is the priority in life? I learned as a doctor, the past is there. Not to be prisoner of the past and to be tied there. The past of the patient is to learn from it and to design and to reach accurate diagnosis to build the present and the future. But who is the present and the future? The present and the future are our beautiful children. We need to ask ourselves, what legacy do we want to inherit our children? A dark, unknown future, or a clear, bright future? We are accountable to that. Our children are the priority. And we need all to come together, because one can't do everything, but each of us can do something. Let all of us come together to make the future, the one we want for ourselves and our children, the future where all are safe, secure, free, healthy, and happy. And believe me, this is possible. And if we are not going to do it now, so when? If not we, who is going to do it? Thank you, and God bless you. Of course. Yes.
Dr. Abuelaish, first of all, I'm sure I speak for everybody, we respect you for having this courageous and brave outlook and perspective in the face of the tragedy you've experienced, and have put such a positive spin on it. What have you seen, you talked about action, what actions have taken place to between doctors such as yourselves, Israeli doctors, Palestinian doctors, or not just the medical profession? What acts of collaboration have you seen that may help this situation?
Of course, at the medical field, we don't see it. At the individual field level, the grassroots and the seats, there are different activities running there. Palestinian doctors collaborating with Israeli doctors and helping each other, meeting even Palestinian patients to be treated at Israeli hospitals. So it's running there. But these are seeds, grassroots. What do we need for the grassroots? And these seeds to flourish and to come up, what is needed? We need the rain to help it. And what is the rain? It's the political will. But we as a people, because I fully believe war is a social movement where we encourage the people for a war. And peace also is a social movement. We all should engage in enforcing the political will to fulfill our needs without blaming. It's our responsibility, because these leaders, political leaders, some people, they blame them. But I want to ask, who brought these leaders? They didn't come by parachute. They came from among us. We voted for them. We elected them. So it's time for us to learn, not every now and then to say, we will never do it again. But we repeat it. It's time to elect the right leaders who are working for us and to be from among us, because I said it, we need leaders where their eyes, all of the time, their eyes are focused on the people's needs, not their eyes to be re-elected and to keep in power. It's time to get rid of these leaders who are thinking just to keep in power. And we can make it as people through education, coming together, the one who knows to tell the one who doesn't. Yes.
You speak of education, and you come from Gaza. Could you comment upon the education of the youth, of the youngsters? There's a tremendous amount of hatred that is being taught within certain communities, and that will perpetuate. So even though our leaders would like to create peace, there is a certain amount of hatred that continues in time. How do you fix that? You came from that environment.
Thank you so much for this question. I want you to know that hatred is not taught. No one can teach someone to hate. I can't teach someone to be sick. To say to someone, be sick with diabetes or with hypertension. As I said to you, hatred is a disease. Instead of saying that we need anyone who hates, it's a result of exposure, because disease is a result of exposure. A threatening factor, a risk factor. That's what did we study in epidemiology. That's in medicine. But it's the easiest way to say someone he teaches or they teach their children to hate us without asking. As I said, I don't want to blame. We need to take responsibility. Even the question, what made them to hate? It's the context and the exposure and the environment in which they live. What makes the people sick? You know what makes the people sick? And even the determinants of health. It's not the hospitals, the biggest hospitals. It's the environment and the context in which the people they live. It changed the environment and the context. There will never be diseases or hatred. And it will be the most efficient way of getting rid of diseases. Yes?
I'm wondering what, from far away, right, from America as Jews, some of us raising American Jewish children, what can we be doing besides sort of teaching our children what's going on? Are there leaders that you particularly think are worthy of our trust? Are there organizations that appeal to you? I mean, if you say not to do nothing is to act, what should we be doing?
I teach my children. We are blessed to have two eyes, to see the two sides, to go outside the box. This is important. And the coin has two sides. not to be stuck, and sometimes we see by one eye. If we started to see out of the box and not to focus on myself and to look at the other and to read what is happening and to think mutually, this is a good step. This is one thing. The second, to speak out. Even for me as a Palestinian, if my son is doing something wrong, am I going to encourage my son? No, I will prevent. I will say, this is wrong. This is not acceptable. The good friend is the one who shows you your mistakes, to open your eyes, not to please you, and to say, what are you doing, which is wrong, and to say, it's great. We need, because in this world, no one is perfect. No one is perfect in this world, whether the Palestinians or the Israelis. So we can't support the Palestinians blindly or the Israelis blindly. It's time, because I fully believe Israelis are not going to be safe or secure as long as Palestinians are not. The Israelis' freedom is from the Palestinians' freedom. Even I wrote it. Palestinians are Israelis and Israelis like the conjoined twins. Any harm induced to one will impact the other. So it's time to promote no one. Even I remember it. I said, you can't be pro-Israelis without being pro-Palestinians. You can't be pro-Palestinians without being pro-Israelis. We need to bring them together, and that there is no way not to live even in peace, to live with respect and understanding, and to share the biggest and the strongest ally for the Israelis is the Palestinians. And the strongest ally for the Palestinians is the Israelis. How can we bring them together and to move forward? That's what is needed. But as a Palestinian, to say, I will stay there, blindly support the Palestinians without seeing what is happening in the other side, it's not going to happen. Yes?
Are there any leaders in Palestine or Israel that you feel are acting according to what you just now said?
The area is not sterile or infertile that there are great people, and I am sure maybe they don't have the opportunity. So we need, even if there is no, we can make them and we can bring them and support them. What brought Rabin and Arafat, whether we agree with them or not, there were good leaders, risk takers, who paid their life for the sake of peace and to move forward. So we can find these leaders who can make it happen. But it's time, at the same time, for, because it's diagnosis, it's disease. I look at, we need the truth. It's time to save the Israeli public and people from the self-destructive act of the current Israeli government. Settlements is a threat to the peace for the Israelis and Palestinians. What is happening now is going to trap the Palestinians into violence and to continue with third, fourth intifadas. We are fed up with violence. So it's time for the Israeli government, the current Israeli government. I don't know what kind of government, Netanyahu, Lieberman, with which one, is it right, is it left, to take decision and to move forward with implementation of what has been agreed upon in the United States. President Obama, he stated it clearly, two-state solution. He stated it. What is needed? Just the implementation. We know the surgery, but we need the surgeon to come to do the surgery. That's what is needed. So it's time, I fully believe, and the Palestinian leadership to commit to these agreements and to accept them. But personally, I will be honest, because with the current situation, the current Israeli government continuing with expansion of the settlements, which is the threat, because all of the world said that settlements are a threat to the peace process between Palestinians and Israelis, and even to this two-state solution. So I ask them, what do you want? Even if I meet any one of them, I ask them, do you want two-state solution? Okay, let us do it. Do you want one-state solution? Do it. Or no state, and to keep the status quo as it is. So who is responsible? It's the current Israeli government.
I've just come to live here after living the last 10 years in Israel, and I remember the night when you were on that speaker. You just stressed so much on education, and particularly education of girls. I'd like to, and I hear people asking what they can do and what organizations really push that. And if I may just say, I've been working with the Bedouin for 30 years. And the young man who was my guide in 1973 is now a professor at Ben Gurion University.
Who's that?
Izzeldin Abuelaish.
Oh.
And his father was one of the first
Yes.
Bedouin physician. His uncle was the first Bedouin lawyer. And he's now a professor. His niece is my dear friend Saraba Abuelaish, who is the first Bedouin PhD, woman PhD. And education is so important. When I started working there, there wasn't one girl beyond the 6th grade, and she was the daughter of the school principal. Last year, when I was in the high schools in the Negev, 80% of the junior and senior class in high school are girls. And this is so very important. And for the organizations that are pushing this and that are supporting these efforts, the New Israel Fund and Adalah are the ones, and the Hotline for Migrant Workers. Those are the three organizations that people here want to know who to support.
I agree, you know, and even if you go now to Ben Gurion University, just to move in the campus, to see, you know, you never,
Bedouin girls.
to see a Bedouin girl there, to see it's a mix, which personally, I said it when I started working, the Negev is the oasis of peace. And it's the gate when President Sadat came after Camp David. And there is a gate at Ben Gurion University called the Oasis of Peace. It starts from there within the borders. When you come to Soroka to see the Bedouin women, the Arab women, the Druze, you see the beauty of life and how social and friendly are they, whether a Bedouin doctor, a nurse, a midwife, or whatever they are living with respect as one. When I practiced medicine there, believe me, I was one of the family. I missed it. I never felt I am a stranger. I never felt. So as you said, you can. Few things. To spread the message, to talk to people about what do you see, to learn. Because you know we need to learn. Look around, ask and learn. That's what is important. Because once you started to look around and to ask and to learn, this will help you to act. There are many organizations. You can volunteer. You can work. Believe me, don't give money. It's not an issue of money. Start with your community. Within your community. To know your neighbor. To give a smile. To say good morning. A touch to a child. Some people, they think just it's a matter of donating. No, it's an action. Small, just a good word. A nice word to say someone. It's important. You can volunteer. Many organizations that you can volunteer and to help these organizations.
So I'm just curious, having grown up on the streets of Gaza and being familiar with also the West Bank, how does the street think of, how do they consider Hamas's refusal to recognize the existence of Israel? How do they, I mean, do they believe in that? Do they?
I will, it's good. First of all, it's good when you speak about the existence. Personally, if someone to ask me, I will never ask someone to recognize my existence. I will never ask. I am existing, I am living, I am breathing. As long as I am living and breathing, I don't need any recognition of my existence. I want someone to recognize my freedom and to give me the freedom. That's what is needed. My independence as a human and to live. So the existence, we are existing. We don't ask. When you speak about Hamas, first of all, Hamas is not the Palestinian people or the Palestinian nation. It's part. The Palestinian people are about 12 million Palestinians. So this is one thing. But who recognized the existence of Israel? PLO, which represents the Palestinian people. PLO recognized it. The Oslo Agreement is between whom and whom? Between Israel and PLO. So you don't ask parties or movements in isolation to recognize your existence. Agreements between major parties. I don't ask personally, as Palestinians or Abbas, he is not going to ask Lieberman to recognize the existence of Palestinians. We are asking the Israeli government. Whether we like Netanyahu or not, he is the prime minister. So we ask the Israeli government. We don't ask the settlers, where there are 500,000 settlers. We are not dealing with settlers. We are dealing with governments which is elected by the people. So it's time to look not in a fragmented way. When we treat patients, we don't treat patients in a fragmented way. Someone, if he has pain in his right hand, to focus on the hand. This hand is connected to a body. So I look in a comprehensive way. Think of the big picture. It's the Palestinian nation to an Israeli nation. A Palestinian authority and PLO to an Israeli government. The others inside, it's the responsibility of the government and PLO. Yes?
I love to talk, but I hesitate to say anything here because I don't feel I have enough in-depth knowledge of the situation. But I was a college student not too long after 1948. And I remember very clearly PLO's motivation to drive the Jews into the sea. And their recognition by the United States as a terrorist organization. Which you may or may not agree with that, but I remember when that happened. I mean, it happened. Could be they were wrong. I also remember more recently how Israeli policemen went into the settlements to force them to leave.
Gaza.
And I remember in Gaza, near Gaza.
Okay.
I'm not sure even of the geography. But that did not help the people who didn't want the settlements to make better relations with Israel. It only gave them more space from which to launch their rockets.
Okay.
Now, the other thing is, I have wondered.
I think this one thing is huge. And, give me the time to answer, to absorb.
It's all part of
If you
the-
can give me the time to absorb it and to think of answering it.
Yeah, all the time, all the
I
time.
pray to God to give me the strength to answer.
I think you will do very well. But the
I am
thing
sure.
is, you know, the thing is, which government should the Israeli government go
Okay.
to talk?
Excellent.
Hamas, who was elected by the people who live
Okay.
in Gaza Strip? The Hamas is there by their choice.
Excellent. I understood the two questions. I will answer the first. The myth you were talking, first of all, PLO started in 1965.
Not 48.
It's not 48.
Right.
So this is one thing. So just to fix dates. So it's important. In 1965, PLO with the President Ahmed Shukeri, not Arafat. So then the myth you were talking about Palestinians, or even not Palestinians, Arabs, they want to throw Israel in the sea. It's great. This is a myth. The myth from the Arabs, I consider it. Just a moment. And there is another myth. At that time, after the independence of Israel, they asked David Ben-Gurion, what are you going to do with the Palestinians? You read and you have the history. He said, don't worry. The old will die and the young will forget. So we have now, from 48 till now, we are in 2013. Personally, I can say to you, Israel is a reality there, and no one can throw Israel in the sea, and Palestinians, neither the old died nor the young forget. So we are there as a reality. Can we deal with it and to understand that we are living there as a fact, and no one can give his or her back to the other. This is one thing. The second issue concerning with whom to talk. I don't know, and also I want to take now the role of the Palestinians. With whom are we going to talk as Palestinians? With Ovadia Youssef, who is poisoning, spreading poison about people and even against Jewish, the religious groups. Number two, or with Lieberman, who wants to transfer all of the Palestinians to kick them out, or the settlers, with whom? I don't know. Or with Netanyahu, that your president here, he said he's a big lie. That's a reality. So with whom are we going to talk? We don't have any partner in the Israeli side. So that's another reality. So we are not going, even with Hamas, that I am against Hamas. I said it. But Hamas was elected in the most democratic election, free elections. If tomorrow you are in the States, you were elected any Republican, that most of the Democrats, they don't want. What anyone can say to you? Would you accept someone, any other country to say, why did you elect? It's your freedom, you are free. But at the same time, the question I want you to ask you, who found Hamas? Who founded Hamas? No.
I don't know, but I know that
Israel.
they've done a lot of very, very good things.
No, please. Who found Hamas? Tell me. Who found Hamas? Yeah, who founded it? When was it found? Do you know? In 1985, during the first Intifada by the Israeli IDF to oppose the PLO at the peak of that time. And that's what it's a registered charity with the Israeli occupation in 1985. And even this election that you are talking about the Palestinians when they elected Hamas, who pushed the Palestinians to run the election? Who forced them to go for the election? The US and Israel. And then to blame the Palestinians for their choice. It's time, please, it's time to wake up and not to blame. And to find the roots of the problems and to ask the reason behind bringing Hamas. It's the failure in the peace process, failure in progress and achievement, and to ask President Bush and Israel who forced the Palestinians to run these elections. So that's what you want to direct your blame to them, to say to them, you brought them, and you are accountable to that.
Everyone makes mistakes.
Oh wow, excellent, excellent. But mistakes,
Except one thing.
what?
Has there been subsequent election within the Hamas movement?
Sorry?
Have there been any subsequent elections within Hamas? That was a good thing what was happening. Gaza was turned over, there was a free election, but subsequently I would ask you to evaluate what has taken place between the Fatah and the Hamas.
It's shame, it's shame. I said it. It's shame for the Palestinians. I said it not here. In Gaza and the West Bank, it's shame for us as Palestinians to be divided. We need to be strong and to be united. And I believe this divide should find the light. It's not today, years ago. It's shame. It's a stigma in the front of the Palestinian leadership to keep this divide till this moment. But as you said, mistakes are there to learn from them. A mistake is a mistake if we learn from them. If it is repeated, it's not a mistake. Yes?
I saw a documentary turned on the TV one time. I believe you were in it. It was about the Palestinian family with the child who was very sick and they were being treated in Israel.
Yes.
Yeah. So that documentary was eye-opening in both ways. It didn't shed a good light on the Israelis. It didn't shed a good light on the Palestinians. But what struck me was when the mother was interviewed by the journalist, and he said, well, what would you do if this son, who has just been saved, would grow up and be a terrorist? And she said, I would support him. And that was very frustrating for me to see. But how prevalent is that? Do you feel like things have changed? I'm not sure when that documentary was made.
But you saw the film. You saw it.
Yes, I was.
So you know this movie is called The Precious Life. You saw that part.
Yeah.
Did you see the end?
Yes.
What did she say by the end of that movie?
She was feeling pressure to say that.
No, but what did she say at the end when he asked her the same question? When Shlomi Eldar is my friend, is the one who opened the speaker. So what did she say by the end of the film when he asked her, you were at the beginning, you want your son to go to sacrifice his life for the sake of the Dome, the Holy Dome, the Al-Aqsa. What she said, no, I will never. I will never. So there was a change, and the change is there. So that's what is needed. We need to take the story to the end, not in a fragmented half. You mentioned the first view, but the end of the movie, and that's what do we want to see. How controversy are we? And even the Israelis, have you seen in that movie? She said, if I speak with the Palestinians, the Israelis are upset from me. And if I spoke with the Israelis, the Palestinians are upset from me. Whom to satisfy in this world? And that's the confusion. And that's what I appreciated. She was courageous to say, if I spoke with the Israelis, the Palestinians, the patients, they were upset. They thought that she is perpetrator. And if she speaks with the Palestinians to satisfy the Palestinians, the Israelis are upset. And that's an issue. That's the dilemma we are living as Palestinians and Israelis. But it showed something. There was a message in it.
Her fear was palpable. You could tell it by the end when she admitted, no, she felt bad, but she felt scared for her life. I'm just wondering how prevalent is the pressure. Like you could tell that by the end, she didn't want that.
She changed.
She
changed, but the most important also, if you see, I recommend you to see this movie. And even if you remember his nephew, her niece, when she came for matching, this is a child with autoimmune disease, and she has many other children who died because they need bone marrow transplantation, and there is no money to support that. So she was transferred to an Israeli hospital, and they found someone to pay for that money, about $50,000, and all of the challenges. You remember that if you see it, I recommend you to see it. It's amazing, wonderful, to give you a wider understanding of the situation with the borders, to find matching and what is going on with the matching, with the crossing the borders, with the situation in Gaza, with other. And when her nephew, she came to the hospital, and that's another issue, the message. She came to the hospital to tell Hashomer Hospital. So the father of that son, he said to her, when she crossed the hospital, walking on the grass, she said, what is this? This means she never left Gaza. What kind of life in Gaza for these people who are educated, but they don't see the life? He said to her, this is a grass. And she said, can we walk on it? Can we walk on it? The difference in the life, it's about 10, 20 kilometers between Ashkelon and Gaza, but a huge difference in the life of the people. And he said to her, this week, you are going to spend here for matching in a hospital, not on the beach. This will be your only week in life that you will live, that she enjoys to be
Precious
out.
life,
It's called the precious life. So that's the complexity of life in that. But I am hopeful about that movie. Have you seen the new movie, 5 Broken Cameras?
Yes,
Excellent. What do you see? What do you think?
I thought it was fantastic.
Excellent. So you can feel the gatekeepers. Have you seen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So please, we need to see things from different angles. Yes.
When would be a time where we are going to see the Palestinians being self-critical? Israel is a democracy, people are thinkers. When are we ever going to see some of that coming from the Palestinians?
Okay. Israelis are thinkers and democratic, and Palestinians are not. Yes, you need the Palestinians to be critical of themselves, I hope. Of course, there is democracy in Israel, but what kind of democracy? And where it stops, where it goes, which directions, and that's important. And Palestinians, I think, even I believe, they are self-critical, and they criticize. You don't read the media, You don't see what are we talking about, the divide, even the Palestinians, about the parties, about Hamas, about everything in Palestine, because I fully believe it's the border. The Israelis, even with the war in 2008 and 9, even 2012, they don't want to know what is happening in the other side. They are not open to see what is happening in the other. Please, I know that. They don't want to see. There are good people who are trying to find out. But that's time to see. Palestinians are democratic in the election. We have more democratic elections than your election. Yeah, we have. I ran for that election. I ran for it as independent. Fortunately, I didn't succeed. And I was happy. I didn't succeed. So we have democratic election. And we are self-critical. It's time, each of us, not as I said, if we want to continue to blame each other, it's not. Can each of us to fix, and I will tell you the story. I will end it. I will end it, the story, when we start to blame each other. And we see just ourselves, as Palestinians or Israelis, to blame Palestinians, Hamas, rockets, we left Gaza, suicide bombs, without seeing what am I doing to you. And this is great story, we need to learn from it. A newly married couple, they moved to their new house. And they are in the honeymoon, enjoying their new life. The wife every day bringing the breakfast to her husband in the salon, enjoying it, looking from the balcony, from the glass, to see their neighbor there hanging the clothes which is dirty. An old woman is hanging it. So the wife is telling her husband, you see our neighbor there, they are hanging it which is dirty. What can we do? Can we go to help them? The husband doesn't care. He nods the head, let us enjoy our food. And the first day, the second day, 10 days after, 2 weeks, she is coming, bringing the breakfast. And she looked, she said to him, oh, look, today it's beautiful, it's new, it's clean. Something changed. He said, yes, I cleaned our window. So I hope each of us to clean his window. We need each of us to clean his window.
I hope you'll all agree that we've participated in a most remarkable evening here tonight. Would you please give your thanks once again to Dr. Izzeldin Abuelaish.